Welcome everyone to another episode of BizzTalk, and I'm your host Jason Schuster, representing BizzTech. And with me today, I have Peter Bordes, who is representing Messari. Did I say that right, Peter?
You got it, Jason.
All right, excellent, excellent. And Peter's actually the head of events and sales over at Messari, and really excited to have him today. And we're talking about the topic of immersive business events. Thanks so much for joining us, Peter. Glad to have you. And tell us a little bit about kind of your background, a little bit about what you're doing right now, about what Messari does, just so the audience kind of understands where your perspective is coming from.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. So yeah, I mean, my experience has really been quite extensive throughout the meetings and events industry. I've been at a couple trade associations in commercial real estate and risk and insurance, and then I fell backwards into crypto and really have never looked back over the past like 6 years or so. It's been an incredible experience. I mean, the one industry that truly does change daily and has experienced incredible growth. So here at Messari, I mean, we are really an industry-leading crypto software and research company. So we strive to provide the tools and the content that our clients and audience really need to drive their business forward and to obviously make the best and most informed investment decisions. And we do that a variety of ways. We have a newsletter, we have a research hub, we have an enterprise subscription, and we are doing our second iteration of Mainnet, which will be our in-person event with a virtual complement as well.
Okay, awesome, awesome. My very first question is, what does a crypto event look like? Like, walk me through. Like, what do I expect to see when I get there?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, one aspect of the crypto industry that I think I came to realize on, I think it was day 2 of being in the space, was it's really all encompassing and welcomes anyone regardless of your background or, industry or experience. So, you might see, traditional finance represented in the audience, walking around in suits. And then you'll see really the entrepreneurs, the builders in the industry, maybe wearing a hoodie. And, I guess it's really bringing together the all encompassing ethos of crypto. It's accessible to anyone, and it's really a way for people to generate wealth and really financial freedom. So it's a wide variety of an attendee base, but the experiences is really what we're honing in on at Messari.
Okay. And then as far as, I mean, what kinds of topics, what kinds of, what are the discussions look like? What are people coming to learn at an event about crypto at Messari?
Yeah, so particularly at Mainnet, I think the way that the content would differ from many other events is it's not really, the level of content is more geared towards the active crypto investor. And I kind of use the term investor loosely. That could include entrepreneurs in the space, the builders, but also those actual investors in the space, and then the wave of traditional finance that is now making its way into crypto. So the types of discussions could be around DAOs or DeFi or NFTs, which I'm sure most of your viewers have heard of by now. But the level of the content will be kind of quite higher and more in depth in the weeds versus, this is what Bitcoin is, this is how you invest in crypto.
Okay, got it. So a little bit deeper, a little bit gotta have a little bit more expertise if we're coming to one of your events. Then that's kind of who it's geared for.
Yeah, as far as Mainnet's concerned, yes, I would say so. I would kind of equate the overall experience, certainly on a smaller scale for now, but the overall experience would be very similar to Salesforce's Dreamforce or HubSpot's Inbound. So, we obviously want to promote Masari and promote our products, but it's really about bringing transparency to the industry and empowering all of the other companies, projects, and builders in the crypto ecosystem and under the Masari brand.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Now, I have to imagine that your in-person events are really exciting, very immersive. I have to imagine it's just like, it's got to be a crazy experience, especially with all those different kinds of people. How did you guys adapt during COVID? What was the biggest things you guys had to do to adapt?
Yeah, so mainnet 2020 was the inaugural launch, and obviously challenging during a global pandemic. I think what was really a easier way to grab people's attention was through our proof of work track, which is what we'll obviously be bringing back to this year's iteration. So you can kind of equate these to quarterly shareholder updates. So you have numerous projects, say like 30 to 40 projects, giving their annual update on what they've been up to, what they've accomplished. And although our attendees are interested in things like that, they can get that information elsewhere. But again, we want to highlight these projects. They are Masari supporters, they're the builders of the industry. So we obviously want to give them stage time. Where we were really able to engage the attendees and provide them with those informational nuggets that they need to advance their own business is our analysts and other independent analysts are on stage probing these projects, asking them the questions that our attendees want to hear, really getting into the weeds on the strategy and why they made the decisions they made, how those decisions have ended up. So again, it's kind of those takeaways that I think really increase the level of engagement and essentially put these projects on the spot versus just giving them a microphone.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Yeah, I like that approach as far as being probing, looking deeper. I like that a lot. Now, before we kind of switch the topic over to more on a more of a general basis, this your upcoming event, which topic are you personally most excited about, without giving away anything secret or whatever? Just what are you most excited to hear about at this conference?
To be honest, it's kind of, I'm hesitant, but also most curious to see how our open source sessions, how those unfold. Most organizers are control freaks. We need to know exactly what's going on. We need everything to be structured. But again, the whole ethos around crypto is collaboration. And
Right.
That was one thing that I was blown away by when I first entered the industry. So we will pretty much have, small groups and to medium-sized groups all throughout a floor, whiteboards everywhere, and essentially just promoting that organic thought leadership. So pairing up the thought leaders with the, attendees who have faced challenges, they have problems that they want to have solved. And again, just let them have at it, unleash them to the whiteboards and to the group settings. And I think these open source sessions will really be some of the best networking that we'll see at mainnet.
Wow, that's actually really cool. And you've been in events for quite some time. So have you seen anything like that before? I mean, are any other event organizers doing stuff like that, kind of more open source sessions?
So I think I
Direction?
think what kind of inspired it a little bit. I attended an event. It was Hout Dakimozo, and they are really great at kind of that unconference format. And so I think kind of taking some learnings from there, and also really just harnessing the energy from the crypto industry. Everyone likes to kind of speak through illustrations. There are very few people in this industry who are bashful or don't want to share their opinion. So I think providing this opportunity for people to openly collaborate and share ideas and really work towards a common goal That'll be really interesting to see unfold. But again, from an organizer perspective, a little, cautious and hesitant, but again, it'll be some of the best networking taking place.
Oh yeah, that would be really exciting. I think that's probably the stuff that I personally would look forward to the most. I'm kind of I'm still kind of a crypto newbie. I'm not completely new, but I'm still I'm definitely not one of your target audience members would be my guess. I mean, I'm just barely scratching the surface with things like NFT, and I've heard people talk about DeFi, but I'm not. I don't really understand it yet. So, but I'm interested. How are you integrating virtual into this event, and how is that different from what you did in 2020?
Sure. So, obviously, I think a big challenge that many organizers have faced in the virtual environment is engagement. So, attendees can simply register, they forget all about the event, they wait to get that email post conference, and then they consume the VOD at their leisure, or they don't engage at all.
Right.
So, I think one thing that many organizers have missed is it's okay to charge for the virtual experience. I mean, organizers are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into organizing these events, and virtual to some degree is, that at times more challenging than in-person events. I mean, that's what we're all used to. That's what we've kind of been groomed for. That's where our experience is. But there are great opportunities with the virtual engagement as well. So first and foremost, we'll be charging a nominal fee, which I think encourages the attendees to actually show up and then to engage with the content, engage with other attendees, and engage with the sponsors. And I think a huge kind of, I would say a requirement for the virtual experience is a matchmaking component. It's very challenging for people to kind of find the right connections or to be encouraged to search through an attendee list or do a search by company, do a geography-based search. So the matchmaking really lowers the barrier to entry and is that encouragement that attendees need to schedule meetings, to seek out specific content, to engage with sponsors. So we'll be enacting a matchmaking component, which I think will enhance that virtual engagement, but also bridge the gap between our in-person attendees and our virtual attendees.
Awesome. Love that. Speaking of sponsors, I know that I feel like a lot of event organizers last year experienced some hesitancy from sponsors for virtual events. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's easier for sponsors to, I think, measure the ROI because we can obviously give them, detailed lists of the attendees who have visited their virtual booths.
Right.
Whereas, in person, they might not scan every attendee with the lead retrieval. And might be a little bit more challenging for them to measure their ROI, or that process might be drawn out a bit more. But again, on the flip side, I think all of us are experiencing some Zoom fatigue. So asking a sponsor to kind of sit behind their laptop for the entire conference, just waiting for attendees to engage, that's a bit challenging as well. So whether it's through show specials or dedicated notifications, I think we're certainly able to encourage the sponsors and almost educate them on how to best engage with our various different audiences. So I think the onus is more on the organizer at this point, because every industry is different. Every sponsor in each industry is different. They approach their business differently. So we need to kind of educate our sponsors more on how to best engage with each respective audience.
Okay, perfect. I like that. And I like what you said about Zoom fatigue. I think even now that things are starting to open back up, I think people are still suffering a little bit of Zoom fatigue. Um, I actually had I had my first actually like business meeting outside the home this week.
Nice.
It
How did
was
that go?
it was weird. I had to get dressed and I had to leave the house. And so yeah, it was just I haven't had to do that for a while. So it was just it was new. And it was nice to see people, you know, in person, but
Yeah.
um I don't know. There's definitely still some efficiency in doing things from home, but yeah, it's give and take, right?
Yeah. It
But you
certainly
know,
enhances the work-life balance, that's for sure.
that's true. That's true. It enhances the work-life balance. But speaking of Zoom fatigue, you know, how do we make events more immersive? So obviously going back to in-person events is a really great way to make sure that your event is immersive. But for some events that's not possible. You know,
Mhm.
your event coming up is focused on crypto, and there's probably a lot of people who would love to attend that event, but they just can't because of logistics, right? One thing that we do here at BizzTalk, you know, we talk to a lot of people from Africa, and I know the crypto scene in Africa is huge, like
Mhm.
booming in Africa. But they probably a lot of those folks aren't going to be able to make it out to your event. But if they wanted to attend, it still needs to be worth their while. How do we make it more immersive for those people?
Sure. I mean, again, I think matchmaking is an incredible way because it lowers the barrier to entry. But while we will certainly still be in a virtual format for many events, and also that virtual complement to in-person events, I think it's important that we start adopting some of the non-traditional content formats that some organizers have been great at doing in the past. So, for instance, a fishbowl format is one of my favorite. um, it enhances the engagement, but it also puts the onus on the speakers to kind of be succinct and get to the point. So, you every well, not every attendee, but many attendees want to speak, and they may have taken part in a call for speakers. So you'll have those attendees in your audience. So the fishbowl format, for those that aren't familiar with it, you have, say, 3 to 5 panelists on stage, and then those panelists have an unknown amount of time that they'll be on stage. And then you randomly will bring attendees from the audience up on stage to replace them. Could be one by one, it could be two at a time. But again, that increases the level of engagement that your attendees are experiencing. And it forces the speakers to be extremely succinct, to get to the point, and really to convey their message versus, maybe drawn out introductions or things of that nature. And I think that it's certainly possible to do over Zoom or any virtual platform. You just require a little bit more planning because plucking a random attendee out of, say, 5 or 10,000 person audience, little logistical issues there. But with a little
Right.
prior planning, certainly a way to increase engagement.
Love that. Love that. Are there any platforms in particular that you found helpful for something like that, or that you think would be helpful for something like that?
Um, I mean, I think most of them nowadays kind of have the opportunity to, switch from presenters. So as long as you either have a great production company who's assisting you, or you have your own internal team that is kind of good with, speaker prep and switching cameras, things of that nature, then I think it's relatively easy to do. But again, I think it'll be challenging to have that, like, serendipitous, like, pluck of an attendee and putting them up on stage. I think it would require a bit more planning. So maybe you choose, like, 30 speakers ahead of time, and then you might only have time to bring like 4 from the audience and put them on the virtual stage. But at least you're conveying that level of engagement and that that kind of unique experience.
Excellent. Excellent. What are some other things that you feel are critical for keeping the event immersive? And I'm not necessarily just virtual, but just in general. What are some of the key elements that you think are, I mean, just essential to making sure that attendees stay immersed while they're there?
Yeah, I mean, I think being in this virtual environment the past year plus has really informed organizers that you don't need to do a drawn out conference format with like rigid times. So what I mean by that is, some conferences may be 3 to 5 days. And, we obviously want attendees, or in the past, at least, I always thought that attendees need to always be on site. They always need to be there. They need to be engaged. And, while that certainly helps with things like, filling the room block or your F&B quota, things of that,
Right.
it's you need to give attendees the freedom to kind of build their own experience. So I think it's okay if the keynote overlaps with a concurrent, or a keynote overlaps with a workshop. Like, give the attendees the freedom that if they want to leave the keynote and go to an immersive workshop, or if they want to go take a meeting, that's okay. They're allowed to. We don't want to shame our attendees into a rigid experience. Again, we want them to develop their own that suits their needs and that meets their objectives. And if we allow them the freedom to do that, and if we encourage them to do that, they're going to provide us with a constructive feedback. They're going to be more engaged, and they're going to come back.
Right.
So I think just promoting the fact that they can build their own experience is a huge first step. We don't have to make them feel like they're locked down to, our daily schedule, but really allow them to, again, build their own.
I love that. I love that. Um, how do we measure that we've done that successfully as an organizer after the fact? How do we go back and make sure, yeah, we did a great job keeping this immersive, engaged? Like,
Mhm.
how do we measure that going forward?
I mean, everyone's always going to look at their NPS score, and they're always going to compare themselves to other industry events, competitors, but also other conferences and events that they aspire to be like. Personally, I think it comes down to the amount of constructive feedback that you receive. Any attendee, or even any customer or client, regardless of the industry that you're in, if they have a terrible experience, they will let you know. If they have an amazing experience, they will also let you know. But if
Right.
they're in between, they'll get your feedback form, they'll get your reminders, and they'll say, oh, that was okay, but I'm not going to take the 30 seconds that it takes to fill it out. We've all done it. We've all, we get the Amazon reviews and all that. We get the other conference reviews that we've attended. And if it's okay or mediocre, we skip over it. So
Right.
if you hit that level of engagement, your attendees will still be engaged post-conference, and they'll be happy to give you that feedback. They'll be happy to take part in a focus group even post-conference. And I think one thing that is a big challenge for many organizers, and myself included, because again, this virtual environment is extremely new, is how do we extend the lifehood of the event? And I'm not just talking about posting the VOD to the website and like reminding people they can watch it, but how do we take that VOD and essentially create new formats or create new marketing assets to extend the lifehood of the event? They don't have to engage with a full 30-minute, recording of one of your keynotes. But if you
Right.
break that up into snippets, push it out over social, or some type of engagement like that post-conference, I think that's really where organizers need to lean into to enhance the post-conference engagement and also encourage that constructive feedback after the fact.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I can definitely say I'm guilty of that too. I will always I'll always watch the short clips, the highlights, but
Yeah.
trying to sit down and watch the full VOD afterwards, no, probably not. You know, and we're an organizer. I still find myself doing that.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
bad. It's
exactly.
bad.
It's human
Um,
nature.
it's human nature. Okay. So kind of a last set of questions before we start to wrap up. Where do you see the future being in keeping events immersive? Whether that's new technology that's coming, new formats, like what's the future? What does it look like 5 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think what we've learned from the Zoom fatigue is it all goes back to the format. So I haven't instituted it yet, but I recently started following Pachikachu, and
Okay.
those are, and I'm almost positive that I pronounced that correctly. But those are essentially condensed presentations. So 20 slides in 20 seconds each. So it's like a little bit over 6 minutes, I believe. And essentially it advances forward. So again, it similar to like the fishbowl format, it encourages your speakers to be succinct, to get to the point, and to keep going, which thus obviously keeps the attendees engaged. You're constantly moving on to a new topic, or you're constantly reinforcing a previous topic. So I think those smaller and those brief hits are really how we're going to keep people engaged, not only on a virtual format, but also in person. I mean, everyone's just going to get busier and busier. So even
Right.
when you're an in-person event, I think those smaller hits are really where we're going to be able to increase the level of engagement. And I would love to see VR take off, whether
Yeah.
it's a combination of augmented reality and VR. I think that would be incredible. But after having a headset on for 20 minutes or so, a lot of attendees might start experiencing, headaches, or they're just kind of, not comfortable with that yet. But I'm very excited to see where that technology takes us.
Me too. Me too. Actually, and Derek and I have talked about that quite a bit. Just where can VR really find its place in
Hmm.
virtual events? And I would say we still need some more advances in the tech, but I think we'll see it. We'll see it here in the next 5 years or so, something like that.
Yeah,
So I'm glad
for
you
sure.
glad you brought that up. Well, awesome. Any closing thoughts for the audience? Just any last thoughts on your mind?
I mean, I know I probably sound like a broken record, but I'm really an avid fan of the smaller hits, the smaller snippets. You don't need to have a 45-minute keynote. I would love to see like a 15-minute keynote. Like it's
Right.
great to see some of these amazing speakers, but I think it's really the future of events, the smaller succinct hits.
I like that.
And
I wonder how the keynotes will feel about that. Some of them they like to talk.
sure, sure. Yeah, I think it's going to be a compromise on both sides.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Peter, thanks for being here, man. I loved everything that you said. I feel that you actually kept everything condensed on each topic. So I'm seeing a pattern here. I like that a lot. And I'm really excited to see how your event goes. So I'd love to have you back here again, maybe right before the event or after, but I think that there's more that we could talk about in this line of thinking. But
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I'd be happy to come back. Thanks for having me. And if anyone wants to stay updated on the event, you can go to mainnet.events and masari.io, sign up for the newsletter and stay engaged with the industry.
perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much, Peter. Really, really glad that you were able to make it here today. And to our audience, thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thanks.